The voice behind the door. Part 1. The night was not safe. Everyone in the village knew it. Once the sun went down, doors were bolted, windows shuttered, and lamps extinguished before curfew. It wasn't just fear of soldiers that kept them inside. It was the unspoken dread of what could happen to anyone caught practicing their faith. Inside a small, weathered house at the edge of the town, a man sat in silence. His name was Elias, a pastor, known by many, hated by some. He had spent his life preaching the word, guiding the broken, comforting the afflicted. But now, the very words that once gave life had put a price on his head. The room was dim, lit only by a single oil lamp that cast weak light across the cracked wooden table. His Bible lay open, though he had not turned a page in hours. His hands trembled, not from age, but from exhaustion and fear. He had been on the run for weeks. He had seen friends taken, houses raided, families torn apart, and now it was his turn to hide, waiting for the inevitable. Outside, the wind rattled the shutters. The village was silent, as though the earth itself was holding its breath. He leaned back in his chair and whispered into the stillness, "Lord, do you hear me? I am afraid. I don't know how much longer I can stand." No answer came, only the crackle of the oil lamp and the steady hammering of his own heartbeat. He pressed his palms to his face, remembering the words of Christ. "In this world you will have trouble, but take heart, I have overcome the world." Yet those words, once a shield, now felt like paper against a storm. Then it came, a sound that sliced through the night like a knife. 3 knocks, heavy, slow, measured. Elias froze, his breath caught in his throat. He glanced at the door, every muscle tensed. No one should be here, not at this hour. He stayed silent, hoping, praying that maybe it had been the wind. The knocks came again, louder this time, demanding. He rose from his chair, moving toward the lamp, ready to extinguish it. But his legs shook beneath him. He knew who it was. Soldiers. They had come for him. His heart pounded as his mind raced. He thought of running, but there was nowhere to go. He thought of hiding, but the house had no secret places. He thought of denying his faith, of telling them they were mistaken, but the very thought sickened him. Another knock. This one rattled the door on its hinges. His lips moved in prayer, though no sound left his mouth. He had prayed countless times for courage, but never had he needed it more than now. "God," he whispered finally, "if this is my last night, give me strength not to deny you." The silence that followed was suffocating. The air grew colder, pressing against his chest. His knees threatened to give way. And then, with one final pound, the voice of a soldier thundered from the other side of the wood. "Elias, we know you're in there. Open the door." His body trembled, his hands clenched into fists. His eyes darted to the Bible, still lying open on the table. He remembered the stories of Daniel, of Peter in prison, of Paul before the Romans. They had faced their accusers with faith. Could he? The soldiers pounded again. "Open, or we will break it down." And in that moment, something unexpected happened. From the stillness of the room, from the very air around him, another voice spoke, calm, steady, close. "He is not here." Elias's eyes widened. He had not spoken. The words had not come from his lips, yet the soldiers outside went quiet, as if stunned. For several seconds, silence reigned. Then, murmurs, confusion. Finally, boots shuffling away from the door. The sound of soldiers retreating into the night. Elias collapsed to his knees, his heart hammering, his breath coming in ragged gasps. He pressed his hand to his chest, whispering, "Lord, is that you?" The oil lamp flickered once, then steadied. The room was silent again, but something had changed. The fear was still there, but so was a presence. Elias remained on his knees, the echo of the soldiers' retreat still ringing in his ears. His hands shook, though the danger had passed. what had just happened. He had not spoken, and yet words had been heard. A voice clear, commanding, undeniable, had answered for him. He rose slowly, his legs unsteady. Every creak of the wooden floor felt amplified, every shadow alive. He dared to whisper again, "Lord, was that you?" His voice broke. Tears blurred his sight. The silence in the room was no longer empty, felt charged, alive. He could not see anyone, yet he felt surrounded. Hours passed before he could bring himself to stand. He poured water into a cracked clay cup, but his hands trembled so badly that most of it spilled onto the floor. He pressed the cup to his lips and drank anyway, his heart still pounding. Sleep would not come. How could it, when heaven itself had answered his fear? The next morning, word spread through the village. The soldiers had returned to the barracks, muttering about strange happenings. "We heard a voice," one said, "but it wasn't his." Others laughed nervously, dismissing it as the tricks of a coward hiding in the dark. But Elias knew. He had felt it. Days turned to weeks. The persecution did not end. Neighbors disappeared, dragged away in the night. The air was heavy with suspicion. Betrayal lingered in every glance, but Elias carried with him a secret, a fire no soldier could extinguish. He had been spared, not by his own courage, but by a presence greater than fear. One evening, as he gathered with a handful of believers in a hidden cellar, he told them the story. His voice shook at first, but as he spoke, strength poured into him. He described the pounding at the door, the terror that had gripped his chest, and the voice that had spoken from nowhere. "He is not here." The listeners wept. Some lifted their hands in praise. Others buried their faces in their arms. For them, it was proof not just that God was real, but that he was near, present in their darkest hour. "Brothers, sisters," Elias said softly, "remember this. Fear knocks at the door. Evil pounds on the wood, demanding entry, but we are not the ones who answer. He answers for us." That night, as they prayed together, Elias understood something deeper. The voice had not lied. In a way, it had spoken truth. He was not there, not in the sense the soldiers had thought. For the man Elias once was, the fearful, broken man, had died long before that night. What remained was someone remade in faith, sustained by a God who never abandons his own. Years later, when the persecution finally ended and peace returned to the land, Elias was an old man. His hair was white, his body frail. But when the young believers gathered to hear his stories, he always told this one the night the soldiers came and the voice behind the door sent them away. And he would always finish the same way. Do not be afraid when darkness knocks at your door. Do not let fear convince you that you are alone. The one who speaks for you is greater than any army, greater than any chain, greater than death itself, and his voice will never fail.